Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into On Mystic Lake by Kristin Hannah.
Ooh, exciting.
I know. Now, I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Another romance novel.
Right.
But our sources tell us it's so much more than that. Think like second chances and, self-discovery and the kind of life upheaval
Okay.
that just makes you rethink everything.
I'm intrigued.
Right, me too. One thing that really jumped out at me was how the setting, Mystic Lake, is almost like a character itself.
Interesting.
What's the deal with that?
So what's fascinating about that is how Mystic Lake really becomes this like reflection of Annie's inner journey.
Okay.
It's not just a pretty backdrop, you know?
Yeah.
It's this place of stillness and isolation,
Right.
which I think mirrors how Annie feels after her life kind of takes this unexpected turn. But then if you think about it, water is also this powerful force of nature.
Yeah.
Constantly changing and reshaping the landscape, erodes, rebuilds. And I think that really speaks to the transformative journey that Annie goes through.
This idea of finding yourself in these like unexpected places really resonates. It's like sometimes you just need that physical distance, that quiet space to truly hear your own thought.
For sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
Speaking of unexpected turns,
Oh.
Annie's going through it.
Oh, no.
She's 40, thinks her life is perfect. Bam! Divorce papers.
Whoa.
Talk about a rug pulled out from under you.
Seriously.
Right.
Wow.
So, I mean, the book really digs into how that kind of shock can, like, completely upend your sense of self.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Like, Annie's been wife and mom for so long that she's almost lost sight of who she is outside of those roles.
Yeah.
And that's where Mystic Lake, this place of stillness and reflection, becomes so crucial.
Okay.
It's almost like the lake itself is holding space for her to, like, figure things out.
I love that visual.
Yeah.
So then, is this also where she reconnects with Nick Delacroix?
Yes. And it's also where she reconnects with an old friend, Nick Delacroix.
Okay.
But their connection,
Yeah.
it isn't just some, like, simple meet-cute kind of thing.
Gotcha. So I'm sensing some real complexity here.
Totally.
What makes Nick so compelling?
Well, Nick is carrying around some serious baggage.
Oh.
He's dealing with the loss of his wife
Okay.
and raising a daughter, Izzie, who's completely withdrawn because of the trauma.
Wow.
So both Annie and Nick are kind of broken in their own ways,
Right.
which makes their connection even more, I think, intense and interesting.
Oh, for sure.
It's less about falling in love and more about like finding solace and understanding in each other's pain.
So we've got heartbreak, a mysterious lake, and now a traumatized daughter. This is definitely not your typical like beach read.
Nope.
Tell me more about Annie and Izzie.
Okay.
What's their relationship like?
So their relationship is actually one of the most powerful parts of the book. Annie steps into this almost surrogate mother role for Izzie.
Okay.
And it's about so much more than just like the romance aspect.
Yeah.
It shows how mothering, that act of nurturing and healing, can exist outside of like those traditional family structures.
Right.
And for Annie, who's feeling lost after her own daughter goes off to college, it allows her to tap back into a part of herself that she thought she'd lost.
It's interesting how the book explores those different ways of mothering.
Yeah.
And how it can be a source of healing, even outside of like the traditional sense. It's like Hannah saying that even when everything falls apart, there's still this incredible potential for connection and growth.
Absolutely.
Speaking of growth,
Yes.
our source kept mentioning this idea of grief as transformation.
Oh, interesting.
What's that all about?
It's a brilliant concept, really.
Yeah.
Hannah doesn't shy away from the pain of grief, like, at all.
Right.
Both Annie and Nick are, like, completely shattered. But she kind of suggests that it's within that brokenness,
Yeah.
that rawness, that something new can emerge.
Okay.
Think of it like this.
Yeah.
Grief forces you to confront the cracks in your foundation,
Right.
the things you may have been ignoring.
Right.
It's painful,
Right,
yes,
yeah.
but it's also a chance to rebuild something stronger, something more authentic.
So it's not just about wallowing in it.
No.
It's about using that pain as fuel
Exactly.
for real self-discovery. I like that. And in Annie's case, it sounds like that self-discovery is happening alongside this like intense connection with Nick.
Exactly, yeah. Through this whole process, Annie kind of gets a second chance at love with Nick. But even more importantly, she gets a second chance at understanding herself.
Okay.
She starts to figure out what she truly wants out of life.
Yeah.
apart from the roles that she's been playing.
Yeah.
And that's where this idea of self-forgiveness comes in.
Self-forgiveness.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a powerful concept. What does that look like for Annie?
So the source mentions that Annie has to come to terms with some past choices,
Okay.
things she regrets.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just about specific actions, you know.
Right.
It's about forgiving herself for like the limitations she may have placed on her own life.
Oh, wow.
The dreams she put on hold.
Yeah.
The compromises that ultimately led to unhappiness.
Right.
It's about recognizing that she deserves happiness and that it's never too late to pursue it.
You know, this idea of self-forgiveness, it really makes you think, it's like, what are those things that we hold on to?
Oh,
You know, those regrets or perceived failures that keep us from truly moving forward.
For sure.
And how do we learn to let go of that burden
Yeah.
and embrace new possibilities?
Right. That's the question.
This is all so insightful. I'm already seeing Mystic Lake in a whole new light.
I know. Me too.
It's not just a love story.
It's more than that.
It's a story about resilience, second chances, and the transformative power of human connection.
Right.
And the way the setting, Mystic Lake, plays into all of this, it's really fascinating. It's like the lake itself is a symbol of that potential.
I think so.
For healing and renewal.
Exactly. It's not just a backdrop. It's a character.
Right.
A catalyst for change.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this book so compelling. It reminds us that sometimes the most profound transformations happen in the most unexpected places.
Absolutely.
Like Mystic Lake.
I love it.
It's interesting how that setting of Mystic Lake, you know, ties into this idea of transformation. It's not just a backdrop for the story.
Yeah.
It really embodies this sense of stillness and isolation.
Right.
Which allows Annie to actually, like, confront her own inner turmoil.
It's like the lake itself becomes this mirror.
Yes.
Reflecting back all the things that she's been trying to avoid.
Right.
But it also offers this sense of peace, like a space to breathe and reconnect with herself.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's where her relationship with Nick comes in.
Yes.
From what I understand, their connection runs much deeper than just a typical rebound romance.
Absolutely. What makes the relationship so compelling is that it's built on this foundation of shared grief and understanding.
Right.
They both know what it's like to lose someone they love, to feel broken and lost.
Yeah.
They see each other's scars, both literal and figurative.
Wow.
And that vulnerability creates this really powerful bond between them.
It's like they find solace in each other's pain.
Yes.
This sense of recognition that they wouldn't find with someone who hadn't experienced that kind of loss.
Exactly. But it's not all moonlight and roses.
Right.
Hannah doesn't shy away from the messiness of their relationship.
Okay.
They're both still raw from their losses, carrying anger, guilt, and confusion.
Yeah.
There are moments of doubt, jealousy, even resentment.
Oh, wow.
It's a very real portrayal of how two broken people trying to navigate love and healing while still grappling with their own baggage.
It sounds like such a human, relatable portrayal of love and loss.
Right.
It's not just this fairy tale romance.
It's a story about two people just trying to piece themselves back together.
Exactly.
And that process is rarely smooth or easy.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so compelling. We see them stumble, we see them make mistakes.
Right.
But we also see them support each other through those difficult moments.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that healing isn't linear. It's a messy, imperfect journey.
You know, we often talk about second chances in the context of romance.
Yeah.
But it seems like On Mystic Lake is about so much more than just finding a new partner. It's about getting a second chance at life, at becoming the person you were always meant to be.
That's a really insightful observation. It's about recognizing that we all have the capacity for growth and change, no matter what we've been through. And for Annie, Mystic Lake becomes that symbolic space
All right.
where she sheds her old skin and embraces a new, more authentic version of herself.
This reminds me of how we talked about grief being transformative earlier.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you have to go through that period of darkness and upheaval to emerge as a stronger, more self-aware individual.
Exactly. And that transformation isn't just about letting go of the past.
Right.
It's also about embracing new possibilities,
Yeah.
new ways of loving and being loved. And for Annie, that includes her relationship with Izzie, Nick's daughter.
Speaking of Izzie,
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that their relationship is one of the most powerful parts of the book.
Absolutely.
Can you elaborate on that? What makes their connection so special?
Well, it would have been easy for Hannah to portray Annie's relationship with Izzie as this simple, heartwarming story of a surrogate mother stepping in. But it's much more nuanced than that. Remember, Izzie is deeply traumatized by her mother's death.
Of course.
She's withdrawn, angry, and distrustful of anyone trying to get close to her.
So it's not just this feel-good story about like instant bonding and motherly love.
Right.
It sounds like a much more realistic portrayal of how children cope with trauma.
Yes.
And the complexities of forming new attachments.
Exactly. There are moments of frustration, misunderstanding, even rejection.
Wow.
Annie has to learn to navigate Izzie's pain with sensitivity and patience.
Yeah.
Recognizing that healing takes time.
Yeah.
And it's not a one-way street.
Right.
Annie herself is still grieving and figuring things out.
So it sounds like this really beautiful, albeit challenging dynamic where they both have something to offer each other.
Exactly.
They both need healing, and they find it in this unlikely connection.
Precisely.
Oh.
It's a testament to the power of human connection, showing that even in the midst of heartbreak and loss, love can blossom in unexpected ways. And for Annie, it reinforces this idea that motherhood isn't confined to traditional biological bonds.
Okay.
It can manifest in many forms, in friendships, mentorships.
Wow.
And even in these chance encounters that bring people together at just the right moment.
That's such a powerful message. It's like Hannah is saying that we all have this capacity to nurture and be nurtured, to offer and receive love, regardless of our circumstances or traditional roles.
I think so.
And that brings us back to that central theme of second chances. Yeah. It seems like On Mystic Lake offers a second chance, not only for Annie and Nick,
right,
but for Izzie as well.
Absolutely. It's a story about finding hope and healing in the most unexpected places and embracing the transformative power of human connection.
Wow.
And I think that message resonates deeply with all of us.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether we've experienced the specific challenges that Annie and Izzie face.
Right.
It's a reminder that we're all capable of giving and receiving love in ways that we might never have imagined.
And that sometimes the greatest love stories aren't just about finding a romantic partner, but about finding ourselves.
Absolutely.
It's about that journey of self-discovery, that process of shedding old layers and embracing new possibilities.
You've hit the nail on the head. And what makes On Mystic Lake so compelling is that it doesn't shy away from the complexities of that journey. It shows us the messiness, the heartbreak, the doubt.
Right.
But it also reminds us that even in those dark moments, there's always a glimmer of hope, a possibility for something beautiful to emerge.
I love that. It's a reminder that healing is a process, not a destination.
For sure.
It's about taking those small steps forward day by day and believing that even amidst the darkness, there's always this glimmer of light waiting to guide us home.
Exactly. And sometimes that light comes in the form of a tranquil lake, an unexpected connection, or a newfound sense of self-love.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding of Mystic Lake.
Yeah, me too.
And its themes of lost love and the power of human connection.
And I think what makes this book so powerful is that it speaks to universal truths about the human experience.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we're all capable of resilience, of finding love and meaning, even in the face of profound loss.
It's definitely a story that will stay with me. You know, as we've been talking about On Mystic Lake, I've been thinking about how often we get caught up in this idea of a happy ending.
Yeah.
As being about finding the one. But this book seems to suggest that maybe the most important relationship is the one we have with ourselves.
That's such a great point. The romance between Annie and Nick is definitely a big part of this story.
Right.
But it's almost secondary to Annie's journey of self-discovery and learning to choose yourself.
Exactly. Like, yes, there's a love story, but the real transformation is happening within Annie.
Yeah.
She's rediscovering her strength, her independence, her own capacity for love and forgiveness.
Exactly. And that's a message I think is so incredibly empowering, especially for anyone who's ever felt lost or defined by their relationships. On Mystic Lake reminds us that we have the power to create our own happiness, to define our own paths, and to embrace the beautiful messiness of life.
This reminds me of a line from the source material that really stuck with me.
Oh, yeah.
It said, "It's never too late to let go of regret and embrace a future full of new possibilities."
I love that.
It's such a hopeful message, and I think it really speaks to the heart of what Hannah is trying to convey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's this underlying sense of optimism woven throughout the book. This belief that even after devastating loss, even when we feel broken, we can still find a way to heal, to grow, to love again.
Yeah.
It's a message we all need to hear sometimes.
I think what makes On Mystic Lake so relatable is that it doesn't sugarcoat the complexities of human emotion.
Right.
Annie isn't perfect.
No.
She makes mistakes, doubts herself,
Yeah.
struggles to forgive herself and others.
Right.
That's what makes her feel so real.
I agree. By showing us Annie's vulnerability and her struggles, Hannah allows us to connect with her on a deeper level.
Right.
We see ourselves in her imperfections.
Yeah.
And we're reminded that it's okay to not have all the answers, to stumble along the way.
We've talked about a lot of heavy stuff today.
We have.
Grief, loss, the challenges of relationship. But I'm walking away from this conversation feeling incredibly hopeful.
Me too.
It's like On Mystic Lake is this reminder that even in the midst of darkness, there's always this potential for light, for growth, for a new beginning.
Beautifully said. And I think what makes this book so powerful is that it doesn't offer easy answers or quick fixes.
Right.
It shows us that healing is a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
It's about taking those small steps forward day by day
Right.
and trusting that we'll eventually find our way.
And sometimes that journey takes us to unexpected places, like a tranquil lake nestled in the wilderness where we can finally confront our demons and embrace our true selves.
Exactly. It's a reminder that transformation can happen anywhere, anytime, as long as we're open to it.
Well, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into On Mystic Lake.
Such a good one.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired to embrace the messiness of life.
Me too.
To forgive myself for past mistakes and to always be on the lookout for those new possibilities that are just waiting to be discovered. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.